Today I created 3 eyeshadow looks with the new Sigma Cool Neutrals palette that is launching early May. I was at the Creators and Friends trip in New Orleans last week where Sigma sponsored one of the dinners and we all got to see this palette and we all got it. I'm also wearing my Sigma little merch hoodie right now. I freaking love this. I live in crew necks at home, so I'm so happy to have this. And I asked you guys in a live video I did the other week whether or not you want to see me use this palette now or closer to the launch date, since we kind of still have like a month until it launches. And pretty much everyone in the comments said they want to see a video with it now so they can decide on whether or not they want to buy it in the future. So I did create 3 looks today with this palette, and I tried to use different shades for each look to show you the variety of colors in this palette. So let's get right into it and start with look number 1. Here is a quick look at the palette before I dip into it. I haven't even swatched these shades yet, but everything looks so pretty. In this palette we have 7 mattes and 7 shades that are kind of a shimmer. I think some are glitter, some might be more of a topper, but we'll kind of find out as we put them on the eyes. And this palette does come with a double-sided brush, so on one side we have the E38, which is just like a nice kind of fluffy crease brush, and then the other side is the E54 that I like to use as kind of like a lid packing brush. Again, this palette does launch early May. I believe it is May 2nd, and my code AngelaBright can save you some money on Sigma's website. My eyes will be primed the same exact way for all 3 looks. I use the Rare Beauty eyeshadow primer, and then I set that with the translucent powder. I'm going to start with the E35. This is my go-to fluffy crease brush, and I'm going to pick up the shade Harvest. This just looks like a really good crease shade for me, so I'm going to blend that throughout my entire crease. So that was just one dip into the palette, and this is how the shade blended out. I am super happy with how that looks. I picked up more of that shade, and I'm going to lightly tap that on the outer part of my lid, and I am going to connect it into my outer crease. Now I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. This is a Sigma E27, and I have more of that Harvest shade on the tip of my brush. And I'm going to apply that along the outer part of my lower lash line, and I'm going to connect it to the shadow that's already out here on the outer part of my eye. What I'm noticing about this palette as I'm just looking at the shades trying to come up with a look is that the palette does lean more kind of mid-tone to deep, which is really nice because I feel like a lot of neutral, kind of more cool tone palettes we see do have a lot of those lighter shades in it. I'm thinking of like the Makeup by Mario Neutrals palette. Like there's some really light shades in that, but in this Sigma one, all of the matte shades are more of a medium to deep shade, which I think would be great for medium to deep skin tones. So I want to put one of these shimmers on my lid, and I'm kind of looking at either this one or this one. I'm kind of liking this first one, so I'm going to go in with Polished on my finger. Ooh, okay, that's what it looks like. And this is going to go on the inner blank part of my lid. Oh wow, this is actually deeper than I thought it would be. It's really pretty. Okay, I actually like that a lot, so I'm going to bring it all the way to my outer eyelid as well. So pretty much on my entire eyelid. Love the tone of this color, and that sparkle is beautiful. Now I'm going to go back to my fluffy crease brush with nothing on it, and I'm just going to softly blend around that shimmer right in my crease, just to kind of soften the edges and give it more of a diffused look. That is so pretty. Oh my gosh, I love that. Now on my smaller E27, I'm taking a little bit more of that matte shade Harvest and just kind of bringing it into my inner crease. And then I'm also going to touch up Harvest on my lower lash line. Now I do want to pop on an inner corner highlight for this look, but there's not really a light shimmery shade in the palette to do that, so you can just take any light shimmer you have. I am going to take the Sigma highlighter in Moonbeam, and I'm popping that right in my inner corner. This just like completes a look to me, which is why I like to do it. And just a little bit right under my brow, right out here. I went ahead and finished up with a nude liner in my waterline and just some mascara, and for my mascara I'm wearing the e.l.f. Lash and Roll. But you know me, I just have to pop on a half lash, so I will be right back. I went ahead and popped on a half lash, but I'm currently trying to hide the lash band, but the lash I'm wearing is the Bright Lashes half lash in Flair. And I'm just taking this dark shade Condor from the palette on a little angled brush, and I am just stamping that along my lash line and kind of on the band of the lash to help blend it into my eyes a little bit more. And whenever I do this, I don't need to bring it all the way into my inner corner, it's just mostly on the outer part of my eye. Here is a final close-up of the first look using the palette. And I wanted to keep this look a little bit more on the simpler side with just a matte shade in the crease and then the shimmer all over the lid. Let's get started with the second look. Now for this one, I kind of want to use some of these more purpley shades in the palette. I'm really drawn to this iris shade. It looks like it might be a lavender, but I haven't even swatched this yet. It might turn out kind of silver. Like, I don't really know what I'm working with, but I just know I want to use this. So I'm going to take Talisman on the E54 brush that comes with the palette, and I want to start by packing this shade on the outer and inner part of my lid to make a halo eye. And while I'm working with this shade, I'm also going to bring it along my entire lower lash line, and I'm just using the tip of the E54 to do this. Now this is like a true cool tone shade. I love how it has a little bit of purple in it, but it's not like too purple. So I have most of that shade laid down, and now I'm going to flip that brush over and take the E38, and I'm just going to start to blend around the edges of this shade. And I already know I'm going to have to build up this shade a few times, but I'm going to build up the shade, soften it, build it up, soften it. That's kind of how I'm going to do this look. And then I'm also blending out my lower lash line. So like I said, I'm going to go back in and build up that shade again. And you can see I'm kind of pressing this right into my eye socket. I'm not necessarily in my crease right now. I'm staying pretty low on the lid. And I am also building up the lower lash line. And then just a little bit in the inner corner. And again, I'm flipping that brush over and blending out the edges. I do kind of wish there was a lighter shade I could use to help blend out this shade, maybe like a lilac or lavender or something, but you know, I'm working with what I have. So when I am blending out the shade, I am blending in my crease. So I pack the shadows on my lid, keep it nice and low, and then as I blend is when I bring it upwards. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but I do feel like I'm getting a little bit of patchiness right here on my lid. I can't tell if that's my skin or if it's the shadow because I am kind of having like some dryness. I have like a scratch up here as well, so not entirely sure what that is from. Okay, so I really do want a lighter shade to soften these edges. And just to show you again, like there's really no light options to help blend. Like I don't want a reddish tone. I don't really want the brown or the mustard or the deeper brown. Good thing I have a handy dandy Angela Bright palette, and I'm going to take the shade Bare from my palette, and I'm just taking a little bit of that shade on the fluffy side, and I'm just going to use that to soften around all of the edges. I really do try my best just to stick to the one palette I'm using in these kind of videos, but you know, sometimes I need to use a lighter shade from another palette. And this is my favorite shade to use to help blend out the edges of any eyeshadow color because it is really close to my skin tone. So we can just kind of soften any shade out. Yeah, I'm still having some patchiness right here, so that's a little unfortunate. But I still haven't gone in with any shimmer shades yet, so I want to see if maybe that'll cover it up a little bit. I'm going to take that iris shade on my finger. Ooh, it's like nice and icy. And that's going to go on the center part of my lid. Okay, I'm glad this is pulling a little bit more lavender than silver. It's kind of just what I wanted. It's really pretty. So I am bringing this shimmer up towards my crease, so kind of higher up, and then going back to my fluffy brush and just blending around the edges of the shimmer. Okay, like I suspected, that shimmer did kind of cover up that patchiness in my crease, so that is good. Okay, now I'm gonna build up my matte shade just a little bit more on the very outer part of my lid. And you could kind of make this look as smoky as you want to. You could grab that like really deep, almost black shade and really deepen up this look if you want. Now I'm going to take Onyx on my small angled brush, and I'm going to stamp this shade along the outer and inner part of my lash line. So I'm going to try to leave the center of my lash line blank. And I'm doing that just to kind of accentuate this halo eye look. And then I am bringing my inner corner in a little bit farther, just doing that kind of little flick of a line right there. And then whatever's left on my brush, I'm just going to stamp along the base of my lower lashes. Alright, here is what this eye looks like with just mascara. I gotta say, I love that iris shimmery shade. Like, I feel like it's making my eyes look so bright and like kind of intense. And let me go pop on my lash. I went ahead and finished off this look with the lash, and this lash is a more full lash. It is the Bright Lashes Lush. And here's a final close-up of the second look with the cool neutrals palette. Alright, let's get started with the third and final look for this palette. I think for this look, I want to try to use a few more shades, and I kind of want to stay in like this range right here. I'm going to take a Sigma E25 in this shade Superior, and I'm going to blend this shade throughout my crease. Now what's kind of funny about this shade is that it looks like one of those kind of mustardy brown shades, right? Which is, to me, more of a warm tone, but this is in the cool neutrals palette. So it's just kind of interesting to see Sigma's take on a cool neutral palette. Like, this shade definitely has some warmth in it. It has some yellow in it, you know? So I'm blending this shade all the way from my inner crease right in here all the way to the outer crease. And I'm kind of making this shape a little bit more rounded. But again, these mattes are very pigmented. Like, this is just from my first dip into that shadow. I have not picked up any more color. I'm taking more of that same shade on the tip of this brush and running that across my entire lower lash line. So I kind of just want the shade wrapped around my entire eye. Now I'm going to take my Sigma switch, and I want to get as much pigment off of this brush as possible. And now I'm going to see if I can use this kind of clean brush to soften out the edges. I might go in with another shade later to help blend that out a little bit more, but I'm gonna keep going. I want to try this Fossil shade because, again, this does look like a warmer shade to me. I want to see what happens if I just kind of place that directly in my crease. Alright, so this is definitely warming up the look quite a bit. I'm taking more Fossil and adding that to the outer part of my lid and connecting it into my outer crease. I do like how this shade is kind of muted looking. Like, it's not a red, it's not an orange, it's like a muted brick color is kind of how I would explain it. All right, so I'm just kind of building up this Fossil shade on the outer part of my eye to add some depth. Now, I do want to blend out this area right here. It's just kind of bugging me a little bit, so I am going to go back into my palette. So I'm going to take a Sigma E33 with Bare, and I'm just going to lightly run this along the edges of the shadow. It's going to kind of clean up the shadow, smooth out all the edges. You can also use some kind of like foundation powder for this step. You just want something that's kind of close to your skin tone. Okay, I feel much better about that blend. Now let's pop on one of these shimmers. I have a couple shades that I think would work well for this kind of more gold one, this more bronzy one, or if you wanted to go a little crazy, this one's kind of fun right here. I think I'm gonna do Brazil, so I'm gonna take that on my finger. This shimmer feels very, very smooth, and I'm gonna place that on the inner part of my lid. Oh, I got quite a bit of fallout there with that one. This is a very pretty kind of soft bronzy shade. Going back to my E25, I'm gonna softly blend around that shimmer. Then on a pencil brush, I'm gonna take this dark brown volcanic shade, and that's gonna go along the outer part of my lower lash line. And then just a tiny bit of that shade kind of on the outer part of my top lash line. Just kind of smudging it right along here. Again, I'm going to finish up this look with the Moonstone highlighter. A little bit under my brow. I went ahead and finished up this look with the Flair half lash again. And here's a final close-up of the third look with this palette. I feel like in person, this look is showing up a little bit more just kind of muted, but on camera, it does look pretty warm. Like on a spectrum from cool to neutral to warm, this definitely does lean more on the neutral warm side, which is something I wouldn't really expect from a palette that's called cool neutrals. Like if you showed me this eyeshadow look and you had me guess which Sigma palette I think this look is from, I would say Ambiance. I'm gonna go finish up the rest of my makeup and then we'll talk more about this palette. All right, I got both eyes done now. Let's talk about my thoughts on this palette. So like I said, I haven't swatched out this palette yet and seen all the shades side by side, but just working with this palette today, I had a hard time putting the matte shades together. Like especially for this look where I used that one kind of mustardy shade, that one kind of reddish shade, I feel like it looks a little bit muddy in my crease. You tell me if you think that too. Or am I just crazy? But like when I was doing that more purpley look, you know, I was using this shade and there's really no other shade that would help blend out this purple matte. I think what I want to do in a separate video is kind of do like my overhead view where I swatch out this palette, maybe pull out some other palettes, see if there's any comparisons to some other Sigma palettes or just other palettes that have launched recently. If there's a specific palette you want to see this swatched and compared next to it, please let me know down below in the comments. As of right now, I only see myself using this palette mixed with some other palette just because I do need those kind of lighter blending shades to make a complete look. And I think overall, I wish that this palette had some more cool tone shades in it for being called a cool neutral palette. Like honestly, these kind of 6 shades right here are all pretty warm to me. So I think I would have liked to see some more kind of dusty, like actually cool toned kind of gray lavender shades in a cool neutral palette. But again, we do have quite some time until this palette launches, so it's very possible my opinion could change. I would love to know your initial thoughts on this palette and whether or not you think you're gonna pick it up. Again, this palette launches early May. I believe it is May 2nd, but if you want to shop on Sigma's website beforehand or just anytime in general, my code AngelaBright will save you some money. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.